Hi, everybody. I'm Fred Satilli. This is episode 15 of the podcast for Voters Union of Accountability Nation. As you know, we are a group dedicated to common sense. We want to coalesce in a nation and create a union of voters that ignores political party, race, class, and gender and votes completely with common sense. We all want a better world, and the only way that we can do that is by getting rid of people who will lead us down a destructive path. Now, what we want to talk about today is value, getting something good from our ordeal. Now, when there's an ordeal, you want to have a good outcome. The cliche is, even if you lose the battle, don't lose the lesson. At least if you learn your lesson, you get something of value for your effort. We had the Revolutionary War. It was rough on everybody, but we got the most amazing thing at the end. We got the United States Constitution, which is a contract between each individual person and the government that they've created to rein in the power of that government so that the individual isn't overwhelmed. Really great, a great accomplishment. Great cost, great accomplishment. After that, we had the War of 1812. It allowed westward expansion. The British weren't done, at the end of the Revolutionary War. They went right down to the Caribbean, right down to the Gulf of Mexico. They decided they were going to come up the Mississippi River and choke us off from westward expansion. But fortunately, thanks to Thomas Jefferson, we had the Louisiana Purchase. Andrew Jackson, another great president who ran a government that ran in the black, no debt, without income tax. That guy stopped the British down in New Orleans, and we were able to continue with our manifest destiny of expansion into the West and ultimately all the way out here to California. It was an incredible thing. It cost us a lot, the War of 1812, but we got an amazing value out of that. Shortly after that, we had the Civil War. A horrifying chapter of our country. 20,000 men died one day in Antietam, and 200,000 overall. And some of those, the prison camps, and just the whole economy and the family against family. It was a horrifying thing, but we ended slavery. It was, in the grand scheme of things, horrible at the time, but in the grand scheme of things, it was worth it because we had a lofty goal. We achieved that goal. It was the cost. And not long after that, we were confronted by socialism and fascism, and we had a horrible genocidal dictator in Germany that we hunted down and we killed, I guess he, just before we got him, he committed suicide, but we completely crushed his entire effort, stamped it out completely from the world, and made it where no one would ever forget it. And that's, no one ever forgetting is an important part of that. And at the very same time, on the other side of the world, we were confronted by Imperial Japan, another group of people who thought they were the master race. They were bent on world domination. And we here in America not only are we for freedom, we're for freedom of the individual. So the last thing we want is an imperial nation coming in and telling us how to live. So we crushed them as well, and it was an incredible cost on every side. The Russians, the Chinese, the Japanese, everybody. It was horrible. But people in India, every place, all around the world, paid the price of this. But at the end, we were free. And that was the important thing. Now, right now, we're being terrorized domestically by something that I call the Wuhan flu. And the reason I call it that is because I don't want anybody to forget. It's a terrible thing what they did. Every announcer has fallen for this. They've given it this general industrial thing, the COVID-19. It takes the personalization out of it. Somebody was responsible for this. It's not just something that, happened. And every year we have a flu season. This time, the media went romping, stomping right into our living rooms and terrorized us, made us afraid. I know plenty of people who are afraid. There's uncertainty and fear. This was fostered. This is not everybody got sick and medical science worked on it, and not at all. This particular flu season hasn't been any worse than other ones, and we don't really even know if it's the reporting that we're getting, all the information we're getting, from the top to the bottom and everywhere in the middle. We don't know if any of that's true, because international players bent on globalism have fed us a pile. And so anyway, we had failures as well as successes. We had a conflict, a police action, really it was a war, in Vietnam. And we lost the war because we didn't finish the war. And the reason we didn't finish the war was because we didn't really have a lofty goal. We didn't really, in the end, it was just battle and battle and battle, and there was no, it stopped the spread of communism. Communism was spreading on all fronts. The battle against communism was not going to be won or lost there, and we still have the communist threat today, of course, and that's the proof of what I'm saying. This would have continued an ideology all over the world, regardless of what happened in Vietnam. So in Vietnam was a terrible tragedy. There was a huge price to pay, and nothing was gained. We didn't win at the end. We didn't say, well, it was worth it, because it wasn't worth it. It was a bad deal. Now, that brings me to the situation here with the Wuhan flu. We have to get something out of this, okay? The globalists want to run our lives, but there's a man standing in our way. And these globalists who've affected the media and the schools and our political system and moved its fingers out throughout our entire culture, they've been trying desperately for 4 years to get rid of the man that's standing in their way, with no success. They shriek like petulant children, and when confronted, he stands like a man. And they were shocked by this because they thought they had wiped out manhood, but there's still a lot of us out there, and a lot of good women too, stand-up women who aren't destructive. Anyway, they've come up against a guy who would not knuckle under, and it gives them fits, and you see their fits all the time. Their fits are innumerable. What you see on the news every night, all this destruction, is a wild whistling fit from people who are using the tactic of a spoiled child. Scream and cry, shriek and cry until you get your way. And for some reason, there are no parents in this country. They're getting their way, right? It's like as if we have, a babysitter who's going to be heading out in an hour or two. She says, yeah, go ahead and scream and cry. Here's some ice cream, whatever. I'm out of here. And that's what we have. So we did a lot of things. The Wuhan flu will be over. But what will be our lofty goal? We've already freed the slaves. We've already stopped Imperial England. And that's another thing, too. England, right? England was an imperial. They fought these wars to conquer and gain control of the world. They didn't fight wars to defend or with a lofty goal. They did it for the cash, right? And that's the big difference. And we managed to shed the tyranny of England. We managed to free the slaves. We put a identified Islam as a problem, and we stopped the spread of that to a great degree, and we've returned our country to capitalistic growth, which is really wonderful. So the question is, what is left? When the Wuhan flu is over, what are we going to demand? We can't free the slaves again, we did that, right? And what we're going to expect, what we're going to demand, and what's going to make the whole thing a winner for us instead of just a terrible ordeal like Vietnam that we lost and we had no results. What we're going to gain is honesty. We can honestly say that we have fake news, and we can honestly say that we have fake education. We can honestly say that we have an activist court system. That's another thing I want to talk about. We have the Supreme Court, cases go to the Supreme Court, and they win or lose in a 5-4 vote. Now, I don't see how the top 9 lawyers in the country, they may not be the top 9, there might be some independent guys who are better, but they're pretty far up there to be nominated, selected, and approved for the Supreme Court. We have laws. The laws are written. The job of the Supreme Court is to interpret those laws. If those laws are written so badly that half of them interpret it one way, half of it interpreted another way, when you get to the Supreme Court, the law should be clear enough that at least 9 out of 10 judges ought to agree. There could be a dissenter. Somebody could have an interesting other idea and present it, and we could talk about it, and with that idea in mind, take it to the legislature and change the law, if that debate for that dissenting judge is so strong. But 5-4 simply means that out of those 9 people, 4 of them are wrong. 4 of the top lawyers in the world are wrong. The top law interpreters, the top law readers, the people with this incredible scholarly achievement of rising to that position, they were wrong. They interpreted it wrong. They were wrong. Because the other ones have to be right, because we're accepting their opinion as law. I mean, when they say something, it sticks pretty good. And the idea that half of them are wrong most of the time, there's a few times when it's 9-0 or something on some issue, and that's as it should be. But the idea that there's this kind of conflict, that just goes to show you the laws are really, really, really poorly written, and that in itself is a crime. We can honestly say we've made free speech into a crime. When people say they want to tear down something, the problem is they're ignorant in an interesting way. When they say they want to tear down something, I'm kind of okay with that if it's bad, but what's the plan? What do you want to build? In other words, if you're going to tear down my house, it might be a good idea. The house could be condemned. You're going to build a better one. You're going to put something better there. But to just tear down things and not intend to put something back, I'd rather live in a condemned home than no home. So these destroyers, they're a problem. We've made whining into justification for privilege. Again, the method of the spoiled child. We can honestly say that we've tossed equal rights right in the garbage. There is no equal rights. There's so many special interest groups now, and between lobbyists and race riots and all kind of stuff like that. Equal justice? Forget it. Equal rights? Not even close. Part of it's because the laws aren't able to be interpreted properly. But anyway, we can honestly say that we've destroyed an untold amount of children's lives by robbing of their birthright, which is the security of a unified family. And I want to get into something about that too. And that is, boy, oh boy, I just have so many thoughts. There's got to be compensation for some of this. During this terrorism, the Wuhan terrorism, there have been thousands and thousands of fathers and some mothers who haven't seen their children because one of the parents has custody of the child, and when the visitation weekend comes, wow, what a crime that is. But it's the way it is. bought and paid for judiciary. When the visitation comes now, it's legitimate to say, oh, you can't come here. You can't see this child. You can't have time. We're quarantined. You got to stay away. And there are thousands of parents, fathers and mothers and grandparents galore, who haven't seen their children now for 4 months because of this. And there's got to be compensation for this somehow. Somebody's got to recognize this. This has got to be recognized. These children are huddled in their little houses without their school, without their friends. They're being damaged. And just like they're being damaged, I saw one man who had a restaurant, and I came to find out that he pays the city $2,500 a year because there's a parking lot nearby, a public municipal parking lot that people park in to go to his restaurant. And because his restaurant pretty much depends on that parking, they're shaking him down for $2,500 a year. They're shaking him down for a liquor license. They're shaking him down for all kind of licenses, all kind of permits, every different thing. Now, if we're going to pay for those things, I'm okay with that. But in that contract is fire protection and crime protection. And when this man needed both of those things, there wasn't even an explanation. There wasn't even an apology. There wasn't even an acknowledgement. It was just you're on your own. So my proposal for compensation for that guy is he's not paying any fees anymore, any fines or penalties or anything like that. Never mind the $2,500 in the liquor license and all that crap. He's got to make up for a lot of lost time. And as far as I'm concerned, for him to pay property taxes or any kind of thing like that, whoever's demanding that's got a hell of a lot of nerve, because they let him down. They didn't do their part, and the contract is broken. I don't see why he should do his, and I highly recommend that he never pays anybody another dime. Just run your business, buy your inventory, pay your staff, mind your own business, and tell every government agency to take a walk, because wow, they weren't there. And they weren't there, and like I said, they're not even contrite. They're like, we'll throw our hands up, and he should throw his hands up. No, you want your tax money or whatever it may be? Yeah, forget it. You collect your own sales tax, all right? Well, I'm not doing it for you anymore. You don't even need an accountant. I'm running it out of a cigar box. Anyway, we can honestly say that we've allowed the lofty pursuit of natural gender roles to be perverted until now. Both men and women are not happy. You're a woman with a son. You want to raise that son to be a man? Good luck. You think he'll grow up to be the man that you hoped he would be? For me, a masculine role, Howard Rourke or John Galt, somebody like that, an incredible doctor or an incredible inventor, a strong leader. That's what you want. You don't want an emasculated man. But now the colleges have done it. The employers have done it. It's terrible what they've done. Now, amazingly, we can honestly say that during this time there's been a huge attack on religion. And as far as it goes, every human culture, there are certain things that humans do. A good example is pets. Everybody has pets. Every culture, it doesn't matter where they are around the world, there's Eskimos with pets, there's, guys in deepest, darkest Africa with pets. There's the upper crust of England had pets. Everybody has pets. Another human thing is sanctification. Humans love God. Gods or sanctified things. It could be a sanctified stone. We all kiss that stone. The whole village agrees. It could be a wild animal, like a species, like we make tigers. The tigers are our god, or the sun or the moon. But now We have a lot of monotheistic religions, and people all over the world love God. Really, a lot of them do. A lot of them believe in it. Whether they practice a religion or not, they do. And to stop people from doing what's really, really, really natural for them is a hideous step of control. It's a kind of control that's unnatural, and it's certainly not allowed in the contract that I have with my government. So, that should not have happened here, And this love of God, I can honestly say that a lot of politicians are jealous of this. So, what they've decided to do was they decided to make us wear a flag of compliance, and that's the mask. You go out in public, and everybody is complying. Everybody's complying. Some of them are complying because of fear that was instilled by the media. Some of them are complying because they don't want to create a conflict. But either way, they're complying with an illegal mandate. The last time and I could be wrong about this, but the one that I can remember anyway, of people wearing a flag of compliance is the Jews wearing the Star of David back in the late 30s and early 40s. They had to wear that. It was a flag of compliance, and now we're asked to wear a flag of compliance, and that doesn't work for me, and if it works for you, well, God bless you. Anyway, what we need to glean from our ordeal is honesty. We don't know the truth. What the media is telling us, the death rate and all this testing and all this examination, everything in the past, we're making decisions based on bad information. So, because we're not really in a war with the disease, we're really in a war with deceit. And because we're in a war of deceit, the only way you can win that is with honesty. That must be our prize. Those who have done this to us need to be identified. You know who they are. They're right on TV. This is the Voters Union of Accountability Nation. So once we identify those players, we must hold them accountable. And we hold them accountable by voting them, and they're conspirators. So it's not just the people that you vote for. In other words, these governors, yeah, you vote them out of office, but the media are conspirators, and the educators are conspirators in all this. They've got to go. We've got to work them out, right? So we must unify, not as a political party, not by race, class, or gender. We have to unify behind common sense, and we have to demand honesty. Sylvester Stewart said, everybody's a star, and you can be one too. All it takes is honesty. Look at the governors who let these criminals run wild in their city. Look at it. Be honest. Vote them out. I'm Fred Satilli for the Voters Union of Accountability Nation. Thank you for watching or listening. If you're listening to the podcast, I really appreciate it. And we'll see you next time.